Welcome to my podcast. Today I'm going to talk about another subject. It's about mental health, and as you might know, it has been boomed and it's on the go since the COVID time. So I'm just going to take it from certain aspect. For instance, when we want to talk about mental health issue, we need to define the mental state and what could be influenced by it. So I mean by that the factors, say for instance the culture. So when we talk about culture, so we need to define what's culture identity. So there has been factors which can define and shape the people, and those factors can have big influences in the culture identity. So it merely means like where you've been grown up, where you have lived, who's your parent, your religion, the accent of the language you speak or the language itself, the race, the ethnicity. And those can influence different things like our value, where we spend our time, how we can spend it, who we spend it with, what eats and drinks that we do, habits and practices, and our views about health and well-being, because everyone have their own perceptive and prospect about the issue. So what apply in the West sometimes can apply differently in other parts of the world, and all are defined by just the factors that I just mentioned. So in that regard, we could talk about causes of mental distress in different cultural groups. So for instance, it could be the stress of resettlement in different countries. So for instance, if you move to another place, you struggle to cope. So that's called cultural shock. So the person might be affected dramatically, and it could influence their productivity and their action, their behavior. Also, if you come to a place where you felt like you're not welcomed, and like, for instance, there's racism or discrimination, so all of that will affect you negatively, of course. Also, if there's a certain culture and social needs which can be different from other places, and also your immigration status, which can prevent, for instance, prevent the person from bringing their family or their closed ones. So you'll be like all alone, secluded, isolated. So this will affect, of course, the mental state. Additionally, if you have loss of close family or close community. So, for instance, you move to somewhere, you get like a connection with the family around or the community around, and then this is no longer there for whatever reason. Additionally, if for instance you lost your work, for instance, or your job for whatever reason, this also can affect a person's mental state. Additionally, if there is a language barrier, if you are not able to understand the language speaking or the accent, this will lead to, of course, feeling like you are alone, you're not being understood, or you're not understanding the language. Additionally, if you feel like isolated, helplessness, or hopelessness, and if there is any conflicting with the tradition, the value, and the belief in the community, and also if there is like arranged marriage through a family, so all of that will affect the person, their sense. If, for instance, a woman has been arranged to marry someone that her value did not align with that person, or maybe they don't have that mutual understanding, so it could affect the woman or both party. So all of that, of course, especially stating the cultural barrier, it could lead to stigma. So some people, they find it very hard to talk about it. And some people, they might have certain assumption about certain cultural group from the way how they look, the way they react, the way how they talk. Also, if there is, for instance, language barrier, could lead to certain issue to be misunderstood, or for instance, we go to the doctor or to the GP, there might be misdiagnosis because of the barrier in the language. You're not able to convey the message clearly, or you don't know how to put it into wording, and you're not able to find the right word or the right term to describe. All of that will lead to feeling of anxiety, distress, and also some people that are not aware of the importance of the mental health, so they don't have that awareness how it could influence people and how it could impact them in the daily life. And some people, they don't know about, for instance, they have the lack of knowledge for the support and the service available around them, possibly in that regard. And of course, as I say, if you're gonna divulge this information, this will lead to the sort of feeling of stigma, and you will be labeled within the community, and a lot of people, they don't like that, so they were gonna avoid addressing if they have any mental health issue. So in order to overcome all of that, we need to understand that different cultures, they have their own needs. We need to have like interpreter or a professional who can speak the language. We need, of course, appropriate service close by, which can be accessible. And we need to avoid those kind of using of the labeling and the stereotyping, which could affect people, of course. And we need to understand that in certain culture, the mental health can be addressed in different continuation, like, for instance, being possessed by spirit or evil or witchcraft or divine retaliation or misdemeanor, and a lot of variable labeling are taught about this kind of condition. And of course, we need, for instance, in the minority group to have like a representative who can implement and plan for a change and to address those points. So from that regard, how we can, for instance, promote a positive mental health care in different cultural group. We need to reinforce, for instance, the cultural heritage, not to be ignored. We need to acknowledge their presence and value their thoughts and see what's their needs. We need to access to the community support network as well. And we need to integrate, of course, with a wider community and access the right knowledge and the education in regard and raising awareness for the importance of the mental health issue and how can be intervened in order not to escalate. From that regard, there's a lot of act has been advocated or has been devised for the Mental Health Act since 1983, which long way, and it has been updated in 2007 for the importance of the health problem and their rights and how they can be treated and tackled and how to seek for support. And also, if there is a bad way, if in the community level it's not being addressed, there's a bad way to the hospital. And of course, there is different continuation in regard, and there's some detention under the Mental Health Act. All of that, and with sectioning, all of that is being devised in the UK in regard. And of course, if any person, for instance, has been in the hospital, there should be a care in place for those people leaving after sectioning. So there is something called Section 117 aftercare, which care for the people who leave the hospital and not to be left alone. to explain to them what's their right under the Mental Health Act. So there is certain rights each one need to know about, and there is also a support group from advocates who can advocate or talk on the behalf of some people who are not able to talk or doesn't like to talk. And also, if there is an issue that you feel that doesn't seem right, you can raise it and complain about it, and to be tackled and see why this happened. And also, it's in certain situation, there is like, for instance, if this is in regard to the Mental Capacity Act, if, for instance, certain people, they might think that this person doesn't have the mental capacity. So this being is a very important thing. You don't need to assume until this person has been assessed, and I mean by that the person can understand the information being told, and can talk it back to you. For that condition, we will say that this person have the mental capacity. However, in such a situation, it can be deprived, which is called deprivation of liberty. Can be used in a restrictive way, like, for instance, underwrite medical treatment or anything that needed. So there is, in that condition, like, the deputy can be assigned by the court, or certain support group can act on that behalf, which is advocating for this person. And of course, there are certain terms like advance decision and last power of attorney, which means that someone will be assigned on the behalf of that person, probably from family or someone else, that can act in the behalf of this person once they don't have the mental capacity. And it's, of course, a documented document being signed by the person themselves, who says that when I, for instance, lose the capacity to act in my things, whether financially, in my will or whatever, that, for instance, my son or my daughter can act on my behalf and should be witnessed and signed. In regard also, there is another thing that always you need to act in the best interest of that person, and never to assume anything or act just rationally and think that you have the authority to act on the behalf of that person because you felt that they are not liable to do so. And in that regard, you shouldn't assume at all. So I just briefed you about certain issue about the mental health and how it should be looked around, especially when it comes to different cultural heritage. Thank you.